Ma'am, you were charged with interference with the duties of a public servant. You're facing up to 6 months in jail and or a $2,000 fine.
Officer responded to a call at the TSU Library Center located at 3100 Claiborne Street in Harris County, Texas, regarding a disturbance. The officer made contact with the individual causing the disturbance, and the defendant approached asking officers what's going on and what did she do. The officers repeatedly asked the defendant to step back, and she became belligerent, asserting that they were at her store. She eventually complied and moved away, but she insisted that a police supervisor be called to the scene. TSU Sergeant Barnett arrived and spoke privately with the defendant. Afterwards, responding officer requested the defendant's information to report her behavior to her supervisor in the university. The defendant refused to provide it and attempted to bypass the officer. When the officer asked her to identify herself again, the defendant declined and attempted to walk away. As the officer tried to detain her, she began to throw herself on the ground and yell, escalating the disturbance. Several officers issued verbal commands for her to comply. The defendant continued to resist, jumping around and asserting her rights. The officer attempted to escort her outside. The defendant then wrapped her arms and legs around a pole, continuing to yell. The officers physically pried her from the pole and detained her. The defendant used her body weight to resist and push against the officers. The defendant was then placed in the back of the patrol car without incident.
Doing wrong.
So it appears she wasn't the initial person causing the disturbance, but when they came to respond to the disturbance that they were called for, she intervened. And once they asked her to remove herself from the situation, she refused.
You didn't say, when you initially started saying about everything, you didn't say that she was the initial cause of the disturbance, that there was a call for a disturbance. They get out there and she, I guess.
So what it says is that they made contact with the individual that was causing the disturbance, and then the defendant approached asking.
See, right. So she just comes up, starts being nosy, right?
Right.
And then she basically, I guess, is trying to leave. And then they start asking her for her information.
Well, they were asking her to leave the scene so that they can respond to the disturbance, and she wouldn't comply. I think that's the issue, that she wouldn't leave when they asked her.
Did you say that?
Yes. They asked her to move away from the scene, and she refused to comply.
Show me, will you read that part again?
Mm-hmm. So when she approached the officers repeatedly asked the defendant to step back, and the defendant became belligerent, asserting that they were at her store. She eventually complied and moved away.
So she complies, she moves away.
Right. But then she came back.
Okay.
And so at that point, when she returned, they asked her to identify herself. She refused to provide her identification. And then at that point, when they asked her to identify herself, she attempted to bypass the officers.
She leaves. She's trying to leave.
Yeah, she's attempting to leave again.
And then they start bucking up to her.